Hey everyone, I have an amazing show today with my special guest, Alex Schleicher. She is a sales juggernaut who consistently overachieved her quota 4 years in a row, was in the top sales performer at her old company, and currently manages her sales team. And I'm actually part of the sales team, and she will be providing tips and tricks on how to be successful early in your sales career. So give it up for my guest, Alex Schleicher. What's up?
Thanks for
Hey,
having me. Happy to be here.
hey, thanks for showing up here. How you doing?
Great. Beautiful day in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, how was the weekend? You do anything exciting?
Coming off of a weekend hanging out with some family. We went to Disneyland for the holidays. So,
Wow, how
yeah,
was Disneyland? Was it busy during this time right now?
really busy, but it's all for the kids.
Exactly. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining the show. You have so much accolades on your belt. That's why I wanted you to be on the show here. You inspire me, and I want you to be able to inspire other people. So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself there?
Yeah, I've been in sales for almost 8 years. Was an individual contributor, started as an SDR, moved up to AE. Now I'm an SDR manager here in Santa Barbara.
Wow. By the way, shout out to Kenya and Angelo being on the show. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining. So, with that experience, how did you get into sales early on? Like, were you always into it, or it just happened to go into it?
Yeah, I did a number of jobs prior, right? I think when you're out of college, you're just trying to experiment. Also, I graduated in 2010 and during a recession. So I also followed my passion for some time, following jobs that allowed me to travel. But when I moved to Santa Barbara, I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I was really open to getting out of the same career path I was on. And that's what led me to an SDR position, and wanted to just really try something new. And then from there, I found really early success as an SDR, but I found that I was naturally good at something, which was the first time that it ever happened. I felt like I wasn't going to work every day, which was really exciting.
What was your background before being a SDR, anyways?
Yeah, I was working in marketing, doing a little bit of trade shows, traveling for those trade shows, and a lot of it was back end work, a lot of computer work, but not as much where you get to talk to people. And sales is where you get to talk to people daily, create those appointments, create those relationships, and that's where I realized I kind of wanted to just drawn to that.
Right, I gotcha. So do you see any experience you developed from your marketing? Were you able to bring that into sales itself?
Yeah, I think every job you do, there's always a learning takeaway. And for me, I think my natural curiosity and going in, um, not knowing anything was also something that I bring to every new position. So yeah, I think even if I say tomorrow I had to start something completely new, I would probably go in with that mindset of feeling like I knew nothing. And I think it's a great place to start. And your knowledge will come up, but being generally curious to how that company operates, how your team operates, and how the most successful people are doing it at your job, is what I would be looking into.
I see. So, you getting into sales early on, sales is such a grueling grind. You get shut down consistently over and over. And one thing that you always tell me is, what motivates you. So, especially with you without having that background, what motivated you to keep pushing on and grinding?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question, to reverse my questions to you. And I think my motivation was proving people wrong. I
Yeah.
didn't necessarily fit the mold for some of the successful people that I saw. I had a hard time fully modeling some of the successful people, but so I was really determined to find my own way and prove those individuals wrong. And someone told me that, you can't control the whole sales cycle, right? You can't control if that company is going through layoffs and not going to purchase, and you can't control, but focusing on what you could control. And I hyper focused on all of the sales activities that I could, and I excelled by doing that.
It's funny that you said, proving people wrong. So, I am a huge Kobe Bryant fan. I love his values where, you can be talented, but if you're lazy, you're not going to go anywhere. But there's many interviews where he talks about the reason why he's so successful is he actually loved to prove people wrong. And it's funny, you and I have the same mindset when it comes down to that. I'm the same way. I love to prove people wrong. For example, I never thought I would do this podcast and have guests over, and you're one of my guests, which is such an amazing thing. So, but yeah, thanks for sharing on that part right there, though. But let's pivot a little bit. So, you've been coaching me for a few months, and I know, I have a sales experience, but even the whole transition into tech sales it's different. And I come from finance, and I remember coming in like, oh, I know what I'm doing. But let's just say I got really humbled early on, So what and you mentioned that you figured out what was made you successful and what you were able to control. So what would you say, or what can you recommend and give tips on to be successful early in your career?
Yeah. I think one of the main things I do with, say, a new hire is just understanding like overall intention and goal. What's the goal? What's the goal for the next 6 months? Like, where do we want to be? And being like very clear about the goal. And I do this for myself. I do this for myself every 6 months. And if I see in between that 6 months that I'm not tracking, or this individual's not
Yeah.
tracking, maybe the goal was incorrect, or maybe we didn't create the right steps in between there. So I think like just overall goal setting is like my number one, because it gives everyone like a roadmap and we're all heading and communicating in the right direction.
Right.
Um, and that being said, I think finding people that you can coach to, I think going back to my experience as an SDR and moving up to an AE after 1 year, I was
Wow.
very much like a fish out of the water. Like, there was no interim period of closing.
Right.
Was we had a little bit of training. A lot of people would say, "Oh, well, this person has their own style, and this person has their own style." I got matched with someone that I could not repeat the same sentence that they had said to a customer without it
Right. Yeah.
me stumbling over the words, because it sounded nothing like myself. And I found a mentor, her name's Prin, shout out to Prin, who I feel like I could sound like her. She matched my energy. Her style of just communication was similar to mine. And it really helped me find my voice. And so, that's this person also was not in my office. I really had to seek them out. And so finding the right coach or mentor, if your immediate people in your team or your manager isn't the right person, find someone else that is. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? And sales is not a solo sport. So just making sure that you have the right people around you
Yeah.
to help rise up, and get you the information you need. So those are like my 1, 2 steps. And then I would say maybe for like the third one is just getting hyper organized, right? Like time management. I think being organized with your time, where you're losing time, would be doing non money generating activities, or activities that don't are not geared to your goal, right? So keeping your eye on the prize. Um, I can go on, but I think those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
So with your mentorship, how often did you visit your mentor? So you and I, for example, we have our one-on-ones every week, right? And I love how different our conversations every time is. So what sometimes is about goal-oriented stuff, and sometimes just okay, how do you what's a problem that you need help with? So what got to, besides you learning that style of that mentor, do you have any other mentors, or did you stick with one mentor yourself the whole time?
Yeah, so great question. So I would think of it as depending on the scenario or situation. It's
Hmm.
like kind of having that friend. Like you have one friend that you call because you know you're gonna have like a night out. You have another friend because you know is a foodie and you're gonna have a great meal. Like
Yeah.
think of it that way. Like, hey, I have this type of a customer um, that really wants someone to like speak on the level and have like a different. I talked to my manager Matt Marquez, and we would like dissect the customer down together. If I wanted to like talk to like strategy number, I call someone else, right? So there, I think understanding when to tap in certain mentors when you are feeling a gap within yourself is also a good thing, right? Don't rely on one person. Also get different opinions, and then at the end of the day, you're going to make the call for yourself of what's going to
Hmm.
be best.
I see. Okay. So first of all, I do want to say thank you everyone for joining in again. Thanks Tuong for joining. Angela, what's up? And I can't see your name, the one that says LinkedIn user. I don't know what your name is, but thanks for showing up here. But yeah, so thanks for sharing that. One thing that really stuck with me was you mentioned having multiple mentors for different situations. I didn't realize that until you brought it up to me. So I want to thank you immensely for that. Have a mentor for sales, have a mentor for your personal goal. That really helped me transition my thought process and collectively know who to reach out to whenever I want to be successful in that route. So thanks for that right there. I do want to ask though, you have all right. By the way, your accolades, your resume, it's crazy good. I didn't think I knew you were good, and just based off of how all of our discussions and just the information you always provide. But the more research that I found from you, the more I realized like, damn, you are a juggernaut. You're killing it. So if you don't know, I know I said earlier that she was a top performer 4 years in a row. Let me be very specific. So she overachieved, almost hit 200% of our quota 2 years in a row. And there's a 1 year where she was the top three performer in North America. You heard it, North America. That is pretty crazy. Okay. And then as she mentioned earlier, she was able to promote to an AE after 1 year. So it's funny that you said that early on you were having struggle. How quickly were you able to be successful? Just hearing all your accolades and just what you're telling me right now.
Yeah, when I said it came like naturally to me, it came naturally talking to people, but
Oh, okay.
the actual sales process of learning how to be an AE was really hard. The first 6 months was really hard. I think I started as in February of the following year, and it was a rough go of trying to be someone I wasn't, be trying to
Mm,
emulate certain people
imposter
that
syndrome, right?
yeah, and I don't know what is it, imposter syndrome. I knew I was capable, but I was trying to be somebody. I was trying to model someone's sales behavior that I was not similar to. And so it took me a
Mm,
while to find my own voice and courage to be like, I think I need to find a different way. Also, because I was scared I was gonna lose my job. Right now, I'm like 2 months in, and I hadn't
yeah.
even created opportunities. Right, and I could either let the fear paralyze me, or I can start I can start digging in. And so I started digging in, and I started digging into the activities of making phone calls. I was like, I was good at that. And there's not a lot of people on my team making phone calls. I'm going to do a lot of phone calls because that's just what I felt comfortable with. Whereas some people were having more success emailing. And that was really a catalyst for me of controlling my activity and being fearless with that activity. Um, and going back to my time management, I perform really well in the morning. They always like what swallow the frog is something someone used to say in the office, like in the
Yeah,
morning.
yeah.
And I would get in an hour before everyone else, very consistently, swallow that frog, make all my calls and emails and my prospecting activities in the morning. Um, and it paid off. It took me about like 6 months to really get that ramp time up, and then I made it almost to 100% my first year. I didn't have a full year, but I think I made it to like 96% to goal that year. Really close.
Wow. That's really good still, even the first year without having prior sales experience. So, one thing I did want to touch base on, you mentioned, so you always preach, okay, Richard, organize, organize, and also activity. Could you talk more into that to how doing certain actions and organizing certain things and depending on how you structure it, it will give you early success. I kind of organize, but the more you planted that seed in my head, the more I understood what you were talking about. Could you go a little bit more about that? You can start with either or subject here.
Yeah. Um, I would think of it as think about what all of the things that you need to do in the week to be successful. There's things that are going to be revenue generating, and then there's things that are necessary evils like note taking, and maybe there's documentation you need to do for your manager, and prioritizing them. But you need to make time for all of it, right?
Yeah.
So I would prioritize your money generating activities. And money generating activities
Yeah.
within the sales would be prospecting and all the channels that you hit within that prospecting, customer meetings, and then from there, everything else like falls into right. You want to make sure your Salesforce or your CRM hygiene is really tight, so that if anyone looks at your work, they can understand your workflow. And I think that's really important because that's your branding, that your name is tied through your CRM to all of your work. And having a clear understanding of where you're spending your time, not only is your management going to see it, your upper management, at the end of the day, like at the end of the year, being able to see that activity, you'll be able to speak to your brand and speak to a potential promotion based off of that activity.
I see. And by the way, a lot of people don't know this is going to be a two-part series. So the first year is just a proper introduction and just some tips and tricks. But the next part we're going to do, I'm going to have her on as a guest again. We're going to actually deep dive on the whole sales experience, what activities to do and whatnot. So just kind of keep that in mind, everyone. But I do want to, before we end the show, you got how do we reach you, by the way?
Hit me up on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to anyone that is new to sales, in SDR land, just wants to chat. I love it. This is part of your networking experience. So feel free to hit me up.
And by the way, she interviewed me as well. I think it was like 3 rounds. So if you need interview prep, she's the go-to as well. But you're so knowledgeable and your work history is insane. So do you have like any plans for coaching or mentorship next year, or even think about it?
Well, I have you guys as my team, so you guys are a handful. But I'd be open to more coaching. Yeah, absolutely. I think let's see how many people are looking for it, and happy to talk to you, like I said, and have a quick chat, and figure out what your goals are, and if I can help out, make a plan.
Awesome. Okay, you guys hear that? Hopefully next year, by you being a guest on here, it makes you take the next leap of what's gonna happen next. See, oh, there you go, Kenya. I would definitely be hitting you up. I need help. That's perfect. You already got someone. By the way, I know we're doing a video podcast. I have this on YouTube. By demand, I am going to make this into a audio podcast. So I will be making it into Spotify and even Apple iTunes podcast. So be on the lookout for that. I will do a shout out. But Alex, thank you so much for being a guest on here. You already have people reaching out already. Look at that. I love it. But yeah, everyone stay tuned for the next show. Thanks for being guest, Alex. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.